Chapter 19. At the Repast. The Backstory. Lillian sat on a Victorian, wood-trimmed tapestry sofa and nudged Erland to sit on the ornate Victorian chair across from her. He did, although slightly reluctantly. The chair was tufted and firm. It felt welcoming under his butt and back, so sturdy. He rested both arms on the armrests, which were padded, his hands landing on the wooden scroll-arm terminals. The entire wooden frame of the chair and that of the sofa appeared to be cherry wood and very well maintained. Erland didn't grow up poor by any means, but he was starting to wonder how loaded his birth mother was. From the outside, this home was kind of large, but unassuming and regular. On the inside, it felt a tad bit as though you were visiting a prestigious library or museum and weren't allowed to touch anything. He suddenly became aware of why Bryn always talked about the ranch as home. This house was pretty uptight and uninviting, no hominess to be found. Even before the first words fell from her mouth, Earl knew he probably didn't want to hear what Lillian had to say. He knew he needed to hear it, but the anxiety was starting to settle inside his gut. Earl knew being anxious would not change anything about Lillian's story, but he just couldn't control the constant rushes of nervous avalanches within him. The facts he had already learned were shooting off continually in his brain, thoughts erupting, as if it had just struck midnight at the turn of a new year, within his body. One sickening fact that kept gnawing at him, while he wished it was fiction, was that she raised Brian. What on earth could cause her to raise someone else's son when she gave her own son up? And it was Brian. Earl didn't even like Brian. He had very little respect for Brian. Then he thought of Bryn, a little sister. He always longed for a little sister. And he had one. Earl smiled at the thought of her, quickly changing it to a scowl. How could this person rob him of knowing his sister, his sweet little sister? He couldn't imagine that she was gone. He smiled again to himself at the thought of Lillian having had no control of him, having spent a semester being in the constant midst of Bryn, and he was secretly a bit grateful to Brian for being such an ass and hogging the dorm room. If it hadn't been for that, Earl and Bryn wouldn't have become so close so fast. Lillian interrupted Erland's thoughts with the commencement of her speech that seemed to have been waiting to be released for the past almost 2 decades. You would have loved your father. Oh, did Bryn tell you about the car accident? Erland didn't want to burst her bubble and tell her that Bryn rarely spoke of her, and when she did, it wasn't ever good stuff, but all he offered was an apathetic no. He couldn't fathom why she was smiling. Did she not realize that he would need time to process this massive explosion he just walked into, called his life? Lillian was acting like she was a kindergarten teacher sitting before 20 kids who were eager to hear a story after lunch. He wondered if she had full cognizance over her mental faculties. She expressed no empathy, that was for sure. So, I'm from Pecan Grove, and Bobby is my first cousin. We were super close as children, almost inseparable. We were raised very disciplined in some ways. Cleanliness, chores, family, all were emphasized, but nothing else. No regard was given to prosperity of self, unless it was within the realm of prosperity of Pecan Grove. For example, I loved to dance. They put that passion in me. Dance fed my spirit. It freed me. Dance was something we did to entertain at events inside Pecan Grove. I wanted bigger, more for myself. I wanted to dance beyond the grove. That was not respected, so I didn't talk about it. I danced in my room, alone. Bobby left for the army the same year both my parents died. Erland was starting to feel a little streak of sympathy for this lady. Maybe she's not pure evil, he thought to himself. That must have been difficult for you. Did you have others around you to mitigate the pain and loneliness of your loss? Yes, all the other relatives at Pecan Grove, but no one person remained who I felt compelled to be accountable to. My whole world consisted of my parents, Bobby, and my grand-mère, who had died already also. So just before I turned 17, I packed up a couple of items and the cash from the sale of my parents' house, and I left, went to New York to dance. Admittedly, I was quite naive to start. I toughened up fast. I had to pass for white to get a job with the best dance group out there. So I did. And around that time is when your father and I met. He never knew my secret. But I'm tan. Did he know me? Erland asked. As an infant, he knew you, added Lillian. Bentley Stewart was his name. We called him Ben, usually. He was a phenomenal person. You came out really fair with light hair. It turned dark brown later. My hair is black, lady. How did you stay a dancer and raise kids if your husband died young? Asked Earl. Wait, so my name is really Erland Stewart? Yes, that was our last name. My dance career ended before you kids were born. On my way home from my very first practice for my very first Broadway job, I was robbed and beaten. It ended dance for me, included Lillian. Oh, I'm so sorry, expressed Erland. It's all right, son. That was a long time ago, said Lillian as she looked away, feeling something undetectable. We were in a car accident, coming home from a wedding. Your father's mother lived with us at the time. She was in the car. Bryn was on her lap. You were on mine. Ben was driving, and Nan was sitting and or standing on the back seat between Mom and me. Your grandmother died instantly. You kids and I were mostly unharmed. Bentley lingered in a coma for months.